What if I told you that a young man from Guatemala changed how 500 million people learn languages? Think about this. A small country in Central America, a smart guy who loved fixing problems, and one simple idea that changed everything. But here's the thing, it almost didn't happen. People said no to his idea many times, but what he learned about how our brains work would create the most popular language learning app ever. Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you will know exactly why Duolingo works so well for your English listening.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our Level English podcast. I'm Anna.
And I'm Lucas, and today we're talking about something really interesting, the story of Duolingo, that green owl app that millions of people use to learn languages.
Oh yes, I actually use Duolingo myself, but I never really thought about how it started. Do you know the story, Lucas?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore today. It all begins with a brilliant man from Guatemala named Luis von Ahn. Anna, have you ever heard of him?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't remember where I heard it. Tell me more.
Luis was born in 1979 in Guatemala City. As a child, he was already showing signs of being quite special. His teachers noticed he was incredibly good at math and science.
Really? So he was like a child genius?
Exactly, but here's the interesting part. Luis grew up in a country where good education was expensive. His family could afford to send him to a private school, but he saw that most kids around him couldn't get the same opportunities.
That must have been difficult to see as a young person.
It was, and this experience shaped his entire life philosophy. Luis always believed that education should be free and available to everyone, no matter where they come from or how much money their families have.
So that's where his passion for education began. What happened next in his story?
Well, Luis was so brilliant that he got a scholarship to study at Duke University in the United States. Can you imagine a young man from Guatemala getting to study at one of America's best universities?
Wow, that's incredible. What did he study there?
He studied mathematics and computer science, but even while studying, Luis was already thinking about how to solve big problems. He wasn't just a regular student, he was always looking for ways to help humanity.
I love that mindset. So what was his first big success?
This is where it gets really interesting, Anna. Luis created something called CAPTCHA. You know those annoying little tests on websites where you have to prove you're not a robot?
Oh my goodness, he invented those? I had no idea.
Yes, but Luis didn't stop there. He realized that millions of people were solving CAPTCHAs every day, and he thought, what if we could use all this human effort for something good?
What do you mean?
So he created reCAPTCHA. Instead of just random letters, people were helping to digitize old books and newspapers. Every time someone solved a reCAPTCHA, they were actually helping to preserve human knowledge.
That's genius. He found a way to turn something annoying into something helpful for society.
Exactly. And guess what? Google bought reCAPTCHA for millions of dollars. Luis was suddenly very wealthy, but he didn't just buy expensive cars and houses.
No? What did he do with the money?
He kept thinking about education. Luis remembered his childhood in Guatemala, where so many kids couldn't afford to learn English. English was the key to better jobs, better opportunities, but language classes were so expensive.
So he decided to create a solution?
Precisely. In 2011, Luis started working on a new project with his student Severin Hacker. They wanted to create a language learning app that would be completely free.
But wait, how can you make a free app and still run a business? That sounds impossible.
That's the brilliant part. Luis had a revolutionary idea. Instead of charging users for lessons, he would make money by having advanced students translate real documents for companies.
Oh, so users would learn by doing actual work?
Exactly. Beginners would do simple exercises, but advanced students would translate articles, websites, and documents. Companies would pay for these translations, and that money would keep the app free for everyone.
That's such a smart business model. So when did they launch Duolingo?
They launched the first version in 2012, but Anna, the beginning was not easy at all. They had to build everything from scratch: the lessons, the technology, the user interface.
I can imagine. How did they know what kind of lessons to create?
Luis and his team spent months researching how people learn languages. They studied traditional methods, but they also looked at video games. They asked, why do people spend hours playing games but get bored in language classes?
Ooh, that's a great question. What did they discover?
They found that games use something called gamification. Points, levels, achievements, streaks. These things make learning feel like playing, not like work.
So Duolingo became like a language learning game?
Exactly! Users earn XP points, unlock new levels, compete with friends, and maintain learning streaks. But they're actually learning real grammar and vocabulary while having fun.
And what about the famous green owl? When did Duo appear?
Duo. The mascot was created because Luis wanted the app to have a friendly, encouraging personality. The owl represents wisdom and learning, but they made it cute and fun instead of serious and scary.
I have to admit, Duo is pretty adorable, but I've heard he can be a bit pushy about reminding people to practice.
Yes, the Duolingo notifications became famous on the internet. People joke about Duo threatening them if they don't do their daily lessons, but it's actually a smart psychological trick. It helps people build consistent learning habits.
So how did the app grow so quickly?
Well, the timing was perfect. In 2012, smartphones were becoming really popular and people wanted to use their phones for learning, not just for social media and games.
Plus, it was free, right? That must have helped a lot.
Absolutely. While other language apps cost $100 or $200, Duolingo was completely free. Word spread quickly, especially in countries where people couldn't afford expensive language courses.
But, Lucas, I'm curious. How did they actually make money in the beginning?
Great question. At first, they used the translation model I mentioned. Users would translate real documents and companies would pay for these translations. But as the app grew, they realized they needed other ways to make money.
What did they do?
They introduced Duolingo Plus, a premium version with extra features. Plus, users don't see ads, they can download lessons offline, and they get unlimited hearts for mistakes.
Hearts for mistakes? What does that mean?
In the free version, users have a limited number of hearts. When you make mistakes, you lose hearts. When you run out of hearts, you have to wait or watch ads to continue. Plus, users don't have this limitation.
Clever. So they make money from people who want a more convenient experience.
Exactly. They also introduced the Super Duolingo subscription with even more features. But the basic app remains free, staying true to Luis's original vision.
How many people use Duolingo now?
This is incredible, Anna. Over 500 million people have downloaded Duolingo. It's available in more than 40 languages, and people study everything from Spanish and French to Klingon and High Valyrian.
Wait, Klingon? Like from Star Trek?
Yes, and High Valyrian from Game of Thrones. Duolingo doesn't just teach traditional languages, they also have courses for constructed languages from TV shows and movies.
That's amazing. It shows they really understand their users and what makes learning fun.
Absolutely, and speaking of fun, Duolingo became a social media phenomenon. People started making memes about Duo, the owl mascot, and sharing their learning streaks on TikTok and Instagram.
I've seen those TikToks. Duo has become like a celebrity on social media.
Right, the company embraced this completely. They created official TikTok accounts where Duo dances, makes jokes, and interacts with users. It's brilliant marketing that doesn't feel like marketing.
So, what's Duolingo doing now? Are they still growing?
They're constantly innovating. They've added features like Duolingo Stories, where users read interactive stories in their target language. They also have Duolingo podcasts for intermediate learners.
And what about Luis von Ahn? Is he still involved?
Oh yes, Luis is still the CEO of Duolingo. In 2021, the company went public on the stock market, making Luis a billionaire. But he still lives quite simply and continues to focus on the mission of making education free and accessible.
That's inspiring. He stayed true to his values even after becoming incredibly successful.
Exactly, and the impact has been enormous. Duolingo has helped millions of people learn languages who never could have afforded traditional classes. People in rural areas, in developing countries, anyone with a smartphone can now learn English, Spanish, French, or dozens of other languages.
It's a beautiful example of how technology can really change lives for the better.
Absolutely, but Anna, what I find most inspiring about this story is how it all started with one person's childhood experience. Luis saw inequality in education as a child, and he spent his entire career working to solve that problem.
That's such a powerful lesson. It shows that our personal experiences, even difficult ones, can inspire us to create positive change in the world.
And it proves that you don't need to be born wealthy or in a rich country to make a global impact. Luis came from Guatemala, but his ideas and determination reached millions of people worldwide.
What do you think is the most important lesson from the Duolingo story?
I think it's about persistence and vision. Luis didn't just want to create a successful business. He wanted to solve a real problem. He combined his technical skills with his social mission, and that's what made Duolingo special.
I agree, and it shows the power of making learning enjoyable. Traditional language classes can be boring, but Duolingo proved that education can be fun and engaging.
Plus, the story demonstrates how understanding your users is crucial. Luis and his team didn't just create what they thought was good. They researched how people actually learn and what motivates them to continue.
And they weren't afraid to be creative. Teaching Klingon and High Valyrian, that's not traditional at all, but it shows they're willing to experiment and have fun.
Exactly. Today, Duolingo is valued at billions of dollars, but more importantly, it has democratized language learning. Anyone, anywhere can start learning a new language for free.
It's incredible to think that this all started with a young man from Guatemala who wanted to make education accessible to everyone.
And the story continues. Duolingo keeps adding new languages, new features, and new ways to learn. They're working on math courses, music lessons, and who knows what else.
I'm excited to see what they do next. But for now, I think our listeners have learned a lot about the amazing story behind that green owl.
Absolutely. The Duolingo story shows us that with creativity, persistence, and a genuine desire to help others, one person can truly change the world.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to our Level English podcast.
Don't forget to practice your English every day, maybe even with Duolingo. And remember, as Luis von Ahn proved, learning should be fun, accessible, and available to everyone.
Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.
See you soon.